I am here to discuss the so-called flying saucers. We have received and analyzed between 1,000 and 2,000 reports that have come to us from all kinds of sources. Of this great mass of reports, we have been able adequately to explain the great bulk of them, explain them to our own satisfaction.
As I looked up, I saw two silvery objects moving swiftly out of the northwest. They appeared to be moving directly south. The objects were very bright and about 10,000 feet in the air. They appeared to be of a bright, shiny metal, like polished silver. Both were the same size and were traveling at the same rate of speed, which was much slower than the jets which shot by shortly after I filmed the discs.
You're getting readings on the tree you're taking samples from on the side facing the suspected landing site. 4 clicks max. Up to 4. Interesting. That's right where you're taking the sample now. 4.
With all due respect to the Air Force, I believe that some of them will prove to be of interplanetary origin.
Since the dawn of humans, we have cast our gaze to the heavens and marveled at the mysteries that were staring back at us. How often have we stared into the cosmos and pondered the question, are we alone? In the days following the release of the now famous Tic Tac, Go Fast, and other declassified UAP videos, many people have begun to take that question more seriously than ever before. As we enter the dawn of a new age in humanity, the skies once again have captured our attention and imagination. For many people, there is no debate as to the existence of non-human intelligent life. Witnesses all over the world have reported encounters with something that changes their perspective on the universe. Here, you will be presented with 3 such events. We are not asking you to believe or disbelieve, but instead are asking you to consider the possibility and reach your own conclusions.
Interesting thing about it, and sort of my introduction to C5 came more from the consciousness part, and so I had this sort of, like, how was I going to reconcile that with the disclosure part? And I finally, after being in Temecula, realized, oh, it's really the same coin. It's just the 2 sides. It's the same coin. And so that, I guess I'm sort of at that point of like, I can accept that, like all the other stuff that's going on, it's kind of like, almost like rising above it. Like saying, okay, this is what's going on, and it's ugly, it's bad, But it's like, yeah, but you actually have to raise your vibration above it to sort of get into the contact part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. I got into CE5 fairly recently because I've been online looking for information for an experience that I had 5 years ago at Joshua Tree. The experience I had at Joshua Tree was, I was with one other person, so it was like we weren't imagining this, but
Were you just hiking?
I was driving across country and I picked up this young man who had just gotten out of he was trying to leave a sober house. And I was getting him to his parents and his girlfriend who were living in Texas. And so that's kind of unusual, but I do rescue missions every now and then.
No, that's not.
Yeah,
that's
so
unusual for me.
Yeah, so I had this guy, he was in his early 30s at the time, who was like a meditator. I helped him pack up the stuff from the sober house, and it was mostly crystals and all that sort of thing. And so he was very much into meditation, and we knew we could travel together. We had cleared all this with our family. Everything was good. This was our first evening traveling. I wanted to go to Joshua Tree because I wanted to see the Milky Way. It'd been a while, since I've really seen dark sky. I wanted to see dark sky. He was like, okay, but we weren't going to stay there all night because we had to get to Phoenix. And so we got to Joshua Tree. It was like we just went right into our child, innocent, happy, carefree, joyful. We were just it was like kind of like a meditation. We were climbing on rocks till nightfall, kind of like this now, and we set up a little altar, which is interesting because of Dr. Greer's emphasis on altar. It was not a puja, but it was an altar on big rock, jumbo rocks, and we were just meditating and just. He had his guitar, and it was just like, I remember having this feeling of like, this is how I want to live. I just had that overwhelming peace, and the stars started coming out, and so we were just like, what are we going to do here? Like, what's happening? We're just really happy and joyful. And he said, he goes, one of my friends told me, in these, when you're looking at the sky, just to pick a star and make all the other stars just kind of separate from it, just let them go away and just focus on one star. I started doing that, and all of a sudden, the sky kind of became green, like this amazing green color. And I said, whoa, do you see that? And he's like, I'm seeing something. And so we were sitting there kind of cross-legged on this rock, and he goes, over your right shoulder, there is a neon bluish, electric blue, object that's shimmering. And I said, I saw a diamond-shaped object come in a little while ago. I said, I thought it might be just a car light, but now that you're mentioning that there's something here, I said, there's actually something over your right shoulder, And then it just sort of evolved that way. We just were pointing out these different things. We called them interdimensionals. We didn't know what they were. We just knew that they were really special, and that we both had this intense joy. Just the love, like what you described as that love. And near one of him, I remember saying, there's this kind of teardrop red object, and I know that that's one of the things that Dr. Greer talks about. In other words, these objects that we had been experiencing that night, including a green orb that sort of followed me to another site over a number of days. It followed me east. It wasn't around me all the time, but sometimes when I was driving, I was aware of that green. And it finally kind of went, and when I got to Stone Mountain was when it went into the lake. It's just found its, from Joshua Tree to Stone Mountain, which is another Monadnock.
Did the light sort of following this?
It was there. It was there the whole time. It was mostly a visual thing for me at that point. It was a visual all the time, the whole time. Especially when I was driving, I was just aware of this peripheral green. And so when I asked Mike Justice, it was one of those, I said, I said, you guys are talking about this green thing, or sometimes it's red. He goes, oh, yeah, because those are orbs. He said, that's an orb. I said, okay, so I experienced it, but it kind of would go in and out. But then when it was at night when I was at Stone Mountain, I had a room on the lake at the base of Stone Mountain, and then it would just kind of expanded and went into the water. So I've had the orb experience, and I've had the lights appearing. I'm convinced, I've been back to Joshua Tree, maybe not the right time or the right people, but I'm hoping that with the right, find my tribe,
Sure.
other people who know how to get that vibe up. It's literally a vibe that we had going. We were, we called it by dimension, like whether it's, like sometimes you're 3, 4 dimension, 5, and we were like bumping it up, like 9, 13, like we were trying to get as high vibe as possible. But that is kind of when for us it started to kick in.
While we all await the official disclosure of the existence of UAPs and their pilots to the world at large, there are those who have grown tired of waiting and have decided to take their own steps to find answers by means of citizen science.
Oh, and by the way, I don't know if you knew, but tonight, actually every first Saturday of the month, but tonight is a global CE5 event, so this is happening all around the world. People are meeting like we are.
Mark Hagerling is the organizer of an all-volunteer group that seeks to explore the mysteries of our visitors using a method known as CE5.
I had this thought, here we go with the thoughts again. This is a couple years ago, of doing a guided meditation. I have no experience putting together a guided meditation, so I just thought, why do I want to do that? I don't really know what I'm doing, at all. And so, but I had this idea in my mind, what would be a cool concept. It was something different. It had to do with imagining everybody like a hot campfire, with hot coals. And so the thing would be these things, there would be these hot coals, and to picture ourselves like that, and then it turns in, they get hotter and hotter the more they're together. It's just the concept I had in mind. And then they turn into a big fire, but if you separate them, they kind of go out, the way a fire is. Anyway, so I decided to do it, and I said, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then I'll have some music behind it, and I'll just tell everybody that they didn't want to get their expectations up for some great, prepared, guided meditation, so I said, no, I'm not going to say much. It's going to be more like a self-guided meditation, I'm going to give you a couple hints along the way, like, that's not exactly the wording I use, but just kind of now think about this, and then I'd be silent for a while. And now think of this, and then we'll be silent for a while. And we just did that. And when it was done, a little later on, there was 2 people sitting on one side, and the one lady was talking about how she saw these lights up in the trees, because she was looking around. Big trees, like right up there. And the guy that was sitting beside her had his camera, and he was going back and looking through what he had just filmed. And what happened is he was looking at stuff before, and then he accidentally on purpose, I don't know, during the meditation, he just laid his camera down on his chest. But he forgot to turn it off. And so, yeah. And so when he looked at it, he's talking to her, and he said, I think this is like what you saw. And anyway, it turned out that something up there had put itself in front of the view of his camera, unbeknownst to him or anybody else. We were all meditating, and it did this thing on his camera. So I had that to work with. And so it was one of those morphing, energetic, plasma type things. And so there's a lot to the studying of that thing. But it's as if they were aware of what the wording was that was going on in the meditation. Because I started off and I said, now, I don't know if this is a quote, but it's basically, I said, now, imagine yourself as a hot coal. And at that moment in the sky, in this video taken, with my sound recorded in the background, appeared this object. And you know, it looked a lot like a hot coal.
CE5, or Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, is a method proposed by Dr. Stephen Greer as a means of establishing human-initiated contact with extraterrestrial beings by the way of meditation. Dr. Greer is a former medical doctor and is one of the foremost figures in modern ufology. It would be easy to dismiss these claims as nothing more than fantasy, but the sheer number of experiences associated with CE5 protocols ignites the curiosity. With the cold chills of winter giving way to spring, Mark announced the first meetings of the new year. It was time to take the inaugural steps on an expedition into the beyond. What you are about to see is two of those events and the high strangeness that followed.
You might enjoy Dr. Greer teaches on the cosmology of the universe. I don't know if you've ever seen his videos on that, but he talks a lot about the different, his ETs and different kinds of beings and transdimensional this and angelic things and all sorts of stuff going on. So I'm sure it would hook into what you're experienced in some way. All right, so one of the things that we try to do is get people some idea of different things that can happen at these events. And so it's kind of a whole list of stuff that we could talk about.
One aspect of the phenomena that keeps recurring is the manipulation of electronic devices. Here you'll see some examples of bizarre behavior in electronics during the event.
And I'm going to show you this briefly too, because see this little thing right here? This little object? It's a radar detector, okay? And the ETs like to use their gadgets sometimes. If there's whatever's available, they will often commandeer it and do something if it's helpful, and like making a sound on it and stuff. And the way that works, where it's actually relevant, is again the context, the provenance, what's going on. So with them, if they just make a sound, a lot of times the connection is when they want to accent something. Oftentimes it's been there where somebody says something that's really important and they go, anyway, that the thing has been sitting in my office on for the last week. Haven't heard a thing out of it, but before we started here, a little earlier, it went off. Just a little hello. You guys thought you heard it, right? So they like to use that and other things that we have. And so last month, I was sitting right here, and I was talking about this, right, and how they like to use these things. And I was explaining about how a common thing is the 3 beeps that kind of some we've come to understand, where a lot of times if they go boop, 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 it's understood as at the proper timing as we are here. It's just a really common message. And I was explaining that, and then I said, and they can do a lot more too. And then that was the end of that. About a week later or so, I was playing back the audio from these things, which I do. So just because you can't absorb what actually happens at these events a lot of times, just without some help like that. Anyway, I got to the spot where I'm talking about this, and I'm listening to the recorder that was made on this machine. And I get to there, and I say, and they can do other things too. Then a couple seconds later, I start getting this noise on my recording. And then I start hearing over top of me on the recording. And I'm thinking, that sounds like a radar detector. So let's listen to, oh, and here's the, let's see, here's the recording. No, that's not it. Where is it? Oh, here it is. It's on solo right here. So I looped and I put that recording that I just demoed with you. And I like looped it 3 times so you could hear it a little bit longer. Same thing, right? Same pitch. See what I'm playing there? Just playing this. Okay, so here's me talking about last month, sitting here talking about.
You could do other things too, but they got it right here in this room. Do that. Well, it's I don't know.
Is there any question that that's the same pitch? Anybody tone deaf enough that they can't?
I was going to say, I think in like the old movies when they had submarines or something, didn't they make that kind of sound too? I don't know.
Yeah, like a
Maybe.
sonar.
Yeah, something like that.
Let's bring out the pitch pipe, you know.
I don't know enough about them, but
There it is. That's the pitch.
You could do other things too,
It could do other things too.
but they got it right here in this room. Do that.
It's exactly the same pitch as
Interesting
this.
how that static is on there too.
Yeah, there's static. I don't understand the static. Heard that a number of times, but maybe that's them doing some other funny thing. All right, here we are. So, if you take the real radar detector and you turn it on, first it makes some, and then it gives you an example of what it's going to sound like when it's actually being functioning. So I turn this off, and then I turn it on, and then you're going to listen. So you hear the last few, that's the sound that it makes through and through, you know, when it's detecting radar. It's designed, these 2 microphones, they're sitting in the room, and whatever sound is in there is recorded at the time. This thing was not set up. There was no radar detector in the room. I might have been in the box, but there was nothing there. So, provenance again. We're talking about it can do other things, and right at that point, that sound is injected into my recording. And it sounds like a radar detector. I was, to me, I was caught, what do you call it, convinced right there. Because first of all, the timing was right after I said, and it can do other things. So just some sound come on there, and I never get a sound on a recording added to these things, never. So just right there that's proof of something. So I'm sure it was not helpful for our meditation, but
I had a really hard time trying to concentrate early.
Here's what it is.
that the radar detector? It's also funny that it seems to have control over the volume.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a volume thing on there.
Sometimes it's loud, sometimes it's
Yeah, is that normal? I don't. I'll check that out. Did it stop? It stopped. Thank you. Very much appreciated.
Said you're welcome.
We don't get it all, but we're
a radar company around
yeah, not sure what that is.
So do you, for the note B, do you know what octave it is?
Huh?
Do you know what the octave is for the,
Of that?
of that B?
Yeah, that is,
One
I
through eight.
do know which one that is, I forget what it's,
Not the first one.
They said don't really get the new ones. These ones are mostly sold in Japan and they're over 200 bucks, so it's a small investment.
So I'd step over here and hear this a little bit. It's very, not very loud. It stopped when I came over. No, you okay? You didn't stop. Thank you so much.
Every time you say something contradictory,
Yeah, every time they said, we're not stopping. Thank you so much. We're gonna do our thing now, okay? Yes, I get it, you're agreed. I'm going back now, I'm gonna sit down.
that's pretty wild.
I hooked it up and started using it because I wanted to see what was normal with its operation, and I also read the book on it. I mean the instruction manual. And I will say the main thing is that I learned is that how, and you probably already know this, but the basic way that it works is by how fast it ticks is supposed to be indicative of the strength or the power of the radar beam, which is microwave beams. That's what they use. They shoot microwave. So it's electromagnetic waves, but it's in the microwave range. And so it's the same as a Geiger counter. But the beeps, I mean, if you get this run short, I mean, if they're spread out, then it means it's a real weak beam. The faster it is, the stronger it is, and so that's how it works. And it makes sense because if they made it so that it got louder or softer, to indicate the strength of it, then and what if it gets too soft, you can't hear it, then you can't really tell what's going on anymore. Or if they attached it to the pitch, made it be low pitch when it's low power and high pitch when it's high power, they could have maybe done that. But if it gets too high, then it's going to be ultrasonic, and then you lose track of it. So the idea of having it be speeding up or slowing down makes sense because you can always hear it, and it's always, by the way, at the same volume all the time. It's supposed to be. It sounds louder if it's closer together, but the beeps are all the same volume, whether it's just one beep per 2 seconds or if it's 100 beats per second. So our thing was going up and down in volume a lot. And I don't know, there's something I have to check. There's a setting on the thing that makes it so that if it goes off really strong, it will be loud if it's turned up loud, and then it shuts it down after a couple seconds so that you don't have to listen to this loud thing all the time. And I don't know if our thing was just doing that because it was getting real loud and real soft, but it seemed like there were things in between too. Anyway, I turned off that feature, so next time we use it, it's not going to be going loud and then automatically soft if that's what it was doing. If it was just doing an inward thing that's set up, I don't know.
Just one more thing about this. Another thing that happens at our events, there's all these different audio things, or people feel things, they hear things, they see things. We were seeing lights, in the eyes. People hear things. A very common thing when people hear things is that they don't just hear it everywhere, but oftentimes they hear it in just one ear. I mean, not just in one ear, like, oh, I think it's more on this side. No, it's in one ear. So the thing with the radar detectors, a lot of times, or other gadgets, you could have like a whole bunch of them sitting on a table, and they start talking to the radar detector, but they only talk to one of them. They're all set up to detect the same thing, but they only talk to one of them sitting on the table. It's very common. So, funny thing is, I didn't even think about it with this, but turns out they only record on one channel also. And I can prove it because I got it here in my software. So how did they do that? If they're just coming and adding something, and have two stereo mics here, right? That's all I can do is record like that. So seen quite a bit of that going on. It even has multiple recordings, he said, of it. So I never gotten a recording of it. Well, I did have sort of a recording of it once, but it's pretty. I'd have to get into the details on that and tell you about it. Yeah, clicking, and then so we added like. What I did is I took the audio, and since that's pretty good software, I said let's split the left and the right into separate files. So we're only listening to either the left channel or the right channel. The other way I could do is turn off a speaker, but we don't have speakers to turn off here. So I did this, but okay, so let's listen to it again. This is just the left channel. You can do other things too. But again, right here in this room, do that again. Same thing. What was the instance? Now, let's go and listen to the right channel alone. There we go. Oh, wait, it has to be solo again. Here we go.
And this thing has some opportunity. It's not just that it does it, but it does it at a certain time. When something going on, and it just decides that it's going to use it, and it makes it like beep 3 times, for instance. We could do other things too. But again, right here in this room. I remember the whole story.
Where is it? I don't hear it.
But these two guys were here,
and anyway, too cool, huh? Well, the click came when it was like totally visible. Yep. It was only on that frame. It wasn't there like when it was coming in over a process of like 3 frames. First frame was like a little light in the sky. Second frame was a little more sun. Third one was a lightish version of the thing that I call a shiny saucer. Anybody want to share anything? general subject, I guess, of what I'm getting at here is to, we need to be skeptical of whatever we experience. Not as a skeptic that just, I don't believe any of that. It's not like that. But things happen. We have got scammed once with somebody sent a drone up. We thought it was real once. We figured it out later on. But a lot of things happen, and a lot of things are real. You can see it here. This stuff is real. So, when you put all this stuff together, that's pro-nuts. That's what are the chances? I could win the lottery. About the same chances. Do you have audio that's where you said things were garbled or slowed or? Hopefully we're hooking up with that thing. We'll find out in a second.
This is an aspect of our consciousness is not what we are aware of. It is our capacity to be aware. We'll show during the next few minutes why this is so. But I wish you to consider, and beyond that, Mars and the rest of the planets. Filled with consciousness. The stars are all around. Our beautiful Milky Way is all around. Between our people and their people. Eyes and guide them to the location of your intended CE5.
That's typical too, that they tend to work with just one device. But if you could have more than one device that's all supposed to pick it up the same way, but it would only appear on one of the devices, that's common. But you have different kinds of devices, but still the weird stuff that you had happening was on your cell phone. Something's happened that's really stepped things up, it seems like. There's just been a lot of things going on.
Right.
Recently. I mean, we have events where, basically there's always something happens at a CE5 event for somebody. But sometimes that's about it. Something happened and that's it for somebody or a couple people or something. But this is a lot of things going on. I mean, it's getting pretty crazy. I say crazy. I don't mean crazy like bad. I mean, just really amazing. Okay. So I didn't even get to where I was. Where do I start? So, when I went to the audio for this last event and started listening to it, I'm trying to figure out where it finally dawned on me. But you see, on my audio recordings for the last year or two, I've been hearing these little passages of static stuff thrown into my recording. And I've never, when I very first heard it, I thought, is that ET's doing something? I don't know. It's just static, though. It's just like little clicky, staticky sort of sound. And that's just for lack of a more accurate term, because I don't really know what it is. I'm calling it static, but it's little, you could maybe relate it to what you hear on a radio sometimes when you're flipping the channels or something and you hear staticky stuff. Although it's not quite like that. Anyway, it seems fairly random. But I realized that when the audio was added to the recording that first time, that I made a big deal about the radar detector sound coming through, that happened just right as soon as the staticky sound came in, because, you know, it was a staticky sound, and then over top or behind the staticky sound was the sound of the radar detector. So it only happened when the static was going on. And come to realize, and also the staticky sound was only recorded on the left channel. And the radar sound was also recorded on the left channel. They're recorded together on one channel. And so that tells me that the staticky sound has something to do with it too. It's connected with the addition of the radar detector sound. So it's ET. Something with that sound is ET. And it's what I can see now is that whenever it shows up in my recordings, it's indicative of ET presence or ET influence or something, because it shouldn't be there. And it's only on the left channel always, or one channel. So what I've figured out is that all this time, there's been this little knowledge to know and realize, and maybe there's, you know, somewhere to go with it to understand more, that whenever I hear that, that's them, they're here. They're at least there at the time that's being recorded, and they're influencing my recording. So that's what I figured out. But now I have to go back and find the spot. I'm not set up to do that right now, and I don't know how to screen share, but I was listening to the recording from this last time, and I was hearing all the spots where there were that staticky stuff. And there was a certain point, I'm going to have to revisit this when I can say it better, but there's a certain point where there was the staticky thing, and then it changed into something very organized. It turned into like a little motorboat, you know, like a very even. I mean, it changed from something you think is disorganized to a very organized thing. The static is always, it doesn't have a tone. The radar detector always has a tone, a pitch, you know, like I determined that it was the same pitch. The staticky thing is more like percussive stuff, you know, it's just stuff. But it was doing its own weird thing, and then all of a sudden it turned into this steady thing, very, very steady. Is stuck out like a real sore thumb. Like, wow, that's not random, static, very organized. And then if I remember it right, it was right after that the radar detector started up in my recording, and never stopped until the end of the night. I mean, that's weird.
Yeah.
When you turn it on, it has like 3 or 4 different bands. And the sound that we are getting it always uses the X band. It never uses the K band or the KA band, because the X band has the nicest pitch. The other bands take and modify the pitch somewhat and kind of make it buzzy sounding. The K band, you can still tell it what pitch it is. If it goes to the Ka band, it really sounds buzzy. And so it's interesting that it uses the X band because it's the most melodic, the tonal pitch that you can. So I've been able to go to other people's recordings and hear the pitch. It's been an important feature to be able to do that. Anyway, this is deep shit.
We reached out to tech support for the radar detector. We informed them of the night's events and sent them audio clips to examine. They were quick to respond with the following.
That's a good 15-year-old detector, I think, with production ending 10 years ago. Having never used one of those older detectors, I'm not aware of typical audio noises and patterns with it, nor would anyone here that I could ask for you. Due to the age of the unit, it may be worth trying with another unit under the same circumstances if you have one. I can tell you there is a typical 30-second or more delay from the time the detector starts up and goes to the normal screen and the time it detects radar. This is even on newer detectors. I can also tell you that X-band is very old technology and largely not in use, at least by police, but you may find some automatic door openers that still use it. Most are using K these days. And also some traffic flow monitoring or other roadside systems may still use it for various reasons. In NC, I personally see X-band just before many interstate exit ramps, but that's about it. I have no knowledge of other systems, e.g. weather, defense, etc., that may or may not be using X-band. Though you may very well have found one, I can't really guess at what it might be. It could also be purely environmental, but I can't speculate as to what or why.
Since beginning the experiments with CE5 protocols, there has been no shortage of events that could be described as high strangeness. But the real treat came from the very first night, when something or someone decided to make their presence known visually, resulting in the most spectacular footage we have ever captured.
Brief flash of a bright light again.
It's not a bright light again?
Yeah, briefly.
Is it shining at your face or what? When your eyes are closed?
Yeah. So.
Just like a flash?
Yeah.
Man. We sure had a lot of that here in the last...
I said to myself in my head, and she said, are there any benevolent extraterrestrial presence here? And as soon as I said that in my mind, I see this thing flick just once. Right after that, right after I had the thought. I thought that was interesting.
Like as an accent?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's talking about that earlier, that at times. And, I mean, there's not much of a vocabulary there for an alphabet, to say things. So oftentimes they want to accent something that's like, yeah, right on, something like that.
There's a number of things that have gone on lately that I want to share with you about that could kind of take us along that path a little bit. It's fun because these are actually current things. So I'm going to get a little geeky tonight because I can, and I have some things to show you. And this is just from our last C5 event.
You just have to assume that everyone here has a sense of humor and adventure because otherwise we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Who wants to put themselves through this? Oh, this is cozy. It's just that hearing people talk about suicide and hearing what these things do, just the amount of love that they have for their groups and for this process is astounding.
What am I putting in?
Undercover representative.
Yeah, I wish you
Just
were.
your leg.
Yeah, this
I
is
mean,
my first time.
Yeah, you
chair
hit,
leg.
well, you hit my foot.
Oh. Let's see this here.
I think he's a controllable opposition.
Are we gonna go around and like say who we are while we're here? Have we done that yet?
I mean, we got till 9. I guess we got time.
I kind of like doing stuff like that. I think it brings cohesion to the group.
There's the latest report right there, the shiny saucer, I called it. And so it's a report on our last month, 6th of April, right? It's May now. And so we actually had a lot of things going on, and can't talk about everything. And what happened when I tried to write this report is I kind of got led sort of down a rabbit hole. It was not an ordinary report, because usually I have like a goal of what I want to share, you know, to bring out a certain interesting or valuable learning point, you know, concerning CE5. And this one I just started with one thing, and what I wanted to get to was the fact that our last 3 CE5 events, we've been having the same thing happen. Not the same, but the same general thing, and that as people been seeing when their eyes are shut, basically, or during meditation, where they see a light shine in their face through their eyelids.
Well, I asked Mark, was he close enough to have kicked my chair? And he said no.
No, I haven't been over there.
So it felt like somebody kicked my chair, and honestly I kind of just thought it was Mark accidentally kicking my chair, but he said he didn't. There was movement underneath my chair, and then like there's a brief flash of a bright light.
Were your eyes open?
No, my eyes were closed. So it was like somebody briefly flashed a flashlight.
And usually during the meditation, and it happened to me that first time, so it was 3 times ago, and then it happened at the next one. It was like a holiday thing, and we met in here. We sat over there, and when I told people about the last time that we got together and that happened, then other people spoke up then and said, "Oh, that just happened to me too." So there's this big thing I'm always promoting, and that is for people to speak up. Learn that early on, that it's like the key to making this thing work, because not everybody experiences things, and a lot of people experience something and they just think, "That's crazy, I'm not telling anybody about that, you know. I must have imagined it," or something like that. But it's very, extremely common, almost all the time, that whenever somebody experiences something, somebody else experiences the same thing. And if it's not just straight on they experience the same thing, it's like the woman who saw it in the trees I was telling you about, but the guy sitting beside her saw it in his video, you know? Or it's just some other strange thing, but there's some connection, so this way people don't feel like they're crazy, or people don't think that the person that's talking is crazy, you know, because it's, you know, you can imagine things. So they seem to be very, very aware of that, and very good at making sure that at least a couple people saw or experienced the same thing or something similar. And so we were out in the field meditating and listening to a guided meditation by Dr. Greer. You'll see that that's what we do. We basically play these guided meditations, and it's to get us together, and then we use coherent thought sequencing to help guide the ETs to our place if there's nobody around that knows where we are. And of course, it seems like, I mean, they're here now. I mean, that's, they already, it's not like nobody knows where we are, but it helps, and it's a good thing to do. And we might bring new people from other places that have not been here before by doing this. anyway, we were doing the guided meditation. There was this one guy this is the next time, this guy was, oh, I saw that. He's talking over the meditation.
I saw that.
Visualize this consciousness and this pure intention rotating up from the group in a great column of light, connecting with these extraterrestrial people.
Hi, my name is Austin, and I am, this is my first time being in a CE5 group. Came here out of curiosity, and last month was my first time. That was in April, and very, very cool experiences. So the best way I can describe what I saw was it was during our first meditation block, the meditation block being about an hour. So after we went through, we used the CE5 protocol, which was the frequencies of crop circle tones. And then after meditation, after all that was up, I noticed people in the group had started mentioning, I think it was just one person before me had seen a flash, one or two.
Is it like a flash bulb?
Yeah, I don't know the terminology, but that's what it was like.
Yeah, like a flash bulb, but it was more of the bright white light versus what I saw earlier was yellow.
Or ego, or personality.
You had a yellow
This
flash
consciousness,
bulb directly behind you,
this
Mark.
unbounded aspect of consciousness is with you always, whether sleeping or awake.
Oh, pretty fixed, that thing.
Mark?
Yeah.
It is unbounded.
Over.
Pause this for a second.
Sorry.
Speak again.
Yeah, we had a yellow, pretty large yellow flash bulb, yellowish orange, that was directly over you.
North.
North, yeah, probably about what? About, I don't know, 56, 55 degrees from my view.
Come back any?
I haven't seen it again. I'll keep watching.
Holly, you said it was, what you saw was pretty big, and it wasn't like a flash, it was more like
a 2 to 3 seconds, so yeah, not quite a flash. So, I don't remember what I said earlier, but yeah, and more yellow. I thought it was maybe a headlight of a plane, so I just waited a few seconds and it totally went out.
Yeah. A lot of stuff going on here tonight.
But basically, I believe from behind me, which was south, we had shined lasers up there earlier, so that kind of, got me looking off in that direction.
I like to show the thing about the directions. I wonder, hey, it's shining pretty bright. See my laser here? I believe that's north.
Right.
And south. So that would be west, right? And east.
So I was patient, just waited a little bit, and eventually I saw this bright flash coming from above the trees. Say southwest, well, that off that way, but it's this white bright flash
on board their spacecraft. Know that this is not a fantasy. Know that this is real. This is not theoretical or philosophical. It is truth, it is scientific, and it is reproducible. You can do that, and have no doubt in your mind that you can.
Yes, sir. She saw it earlier. Wherever that
Be
was.
aware
They saw it over there. I
that
just
the most
saw it
important
right in
aspect
my eye, like a white
of these protocols is the expansion of consciousness, the perception of oneness amongst the peoples in the group.
I know what they were talking about now. Later on, when we came back inside, I had noticed there was this like a dark spot in my eye. It's like some line-looking thing, curvy line-looking thing, and there was nothing up in the tree or anywhere near it that could have reflected. So it was coming from the sky, and that's my encounter I have with that.
Well-intentioned humans and those extraterrestrial peoples visiting our planet at this time in the Earth's history. This is a matter of great urgency.
Ooh.
And it is for that reason that our efforts
Did anybody
have
flash a
been
laser
and will continue to meet
or anything?
with success.
Did anybody flash a laser just now or anything?
Oh, you saw that from your right over your shoulder, didn't you?
I saw a flash like straight up around here. I call it like a small.
No, I saw it. It flashed right into my eye.
I call it like a little corner of it on my screen here.
That's what I was talking about, but just literally, it was like shot right into my eyeball. I saw it from back behind y'all over those trees.
You saw it from behind the trees?
No, yeah, it came from, unless there's somebody in the very top of that tree shining a laser into people's eyes, I don't think there was somebody over there.
Okay, so.
If I shine my laser up here, can you tell if I'm in the right with this tree?
No, to the right. 2 over. 1 more. Yeah, it came from that direction.
That low?
It was above it. It came down from the tree. Yeah, like in there.
Right there?
Yeah.
Alright.
In the Earth's history. This is a matter of great urgency.
Ooh.
And it
We tried to debunk the mysterious object as possibly being a lens flare, but the only thing that came close was a laser. But there was a problem with the laser theory. In this clip, you can clearly see the green beam from the laser as it flashes into the lens. On the clip of the anomaly, there is no beam present. At this point, we had to consider the possibility that we had just captured a UAP on video.
Thing that I noticed, because he sent me a copy of the video and asked me to see it and see what I thought. The thing I noticed right off the bat was there's this click. Yeah, clicking, and then so we had it like 3 times sessions ago, where they were clicking like crazy, and people went, "You hear this clicking? We hear it over here and over there." And I said, "What, like this?" Yeah, like that, you know. And it was going on. We'd hear it here, and then we'd hear it there. And then the thing that was cool about it was that it didn't come from me. It's not like I said something and then everybody started trying to think, who do I hear clicking, you know? I didn't say anything about it. So they didn't know anything about clicking. So that was what was cool about it. So after they talked about it, I said, well, you know, there's clicking. The ETs that like to click. This is not the clicking ETs that's in another report. This is just a sound that showed up at exactly the same moment as the flash of light that flashed into his camera that he recorded, which looked like that, you know. And he sent it to me, and you know, you can interpret it any way you want. To me, it immediately gets into a whole subject that I wanted to get into, which is when it comes to seeing these different things, it's not just what you see or what you hear. That's the whole deal. It's the context, the timing, and something that Dr. Greer likes the word he likes to use is the provenance of what happened. So right here, there's a connection historically or context-wise, there's this thing that in the pre-meeting right here, like in this room, we were sitting here, and I made this big deal about how nobody's going to be seeing any shiny saucers in the sky anymore, at least for the time being, until we get this under control to stop shooting them down, the military that are doing that. So it's very unsafe for them to show up, and that's why you don't see people reporting. They see orbs and strange things and morphing this and morphing that, but shiny saucers, not that it's impossible, but if you do see a shiny saucer these days, 2024, it's probably a man-made one, you know. But I made this big point about how, you know, not going to see that. And then he takes that thing and he sends me that, and I'm going, that looks a lot like a shiny saucer. But to me, everything about that says shiny. It's like there's a light coming from the side, shining on it. When you think shiny, it's usually because there's some kind of light that's illuminating it, you know. And it's saucer shaped. So whether it's, you know, it's not even important whether this is actually a shiny, whether this is actually a UFO, you know. That's not the point. The point is, I said we're not going to see anything like that. And then this shows up 2 hours later, and for anybody that's got that in their mind, looks like a shiny saucer. Now, the thing is, I can just go with huge coincidence, you know, I can just let it drop. That's fine. But the more you start looking at these things, and you start seeing timing and context and provenance starting to merge together, then you have to go, oh, wait a minute, this doesn't really make much sense, that this could just be coincidence. All right. It's just the single event of this. So.
In the Earth's history. This is a matter of great urgency.
That's it.
That's something.
Just there.
It's not nothing.
Impressive.
Yeah. So, did you hear the click?
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly, and I'm going to show you in Pro Tools how closely lined up it is. And first of all, it's also, this happens, I can go frame by frame with this, so let me see if I can, yeah, here we are. This will move frame by frame. So this video is shot in 30 frames per second. So it's just like an old camera, but it's digital frame, so only 30 per second. So here's the first frame where it's starting to come into view. Second frame, third frame, fourth frame, there it is. That's what you get. Now, fifth frame is probably going to start fading out, right? Until it's like gone, right? Or maybe not. So what's in the next frame? Next frame, it's gone. Pretty cool, huh?
It looks huge too. But it does come back.
But just to make it weirder than that, in the next frame something else shows up. But it skips a frame first. Is that weird or what? And then this should probably though fade out after this, right? Probably. No, next frame, it's gone. So this is all weird stuff, you know. It's one thing for some weird, just weird thing, mistake of some kind for the light to come up and look like that. For it to show up in one frame and the click to be at exactly the same time. What's a click doing there anyway? I mean, if I look out a window and a bright light shines in there, do I get a click with it? Weird, huh? I mean, this all says there's something going on here. But if that's not weird enough, let's look at my see if I can find my program now.
Was it as big as it looked then? Because I mean, that looks like it's pretty damn massive.
Yeah, it filled like the portion of the steering. That's not a close-up of it. All right, so here's the audio of Chuck's audio from that video. Should be. Let's do it again.
This is a matter of great urgency.
There's your click, right? So turns out that I was recording, of course, the whole thing too. So I have a tape recorder. Where is it? I record the whole evening on this thing. This is a field recorder, you know, and it's a stereo recorder. So you see there's two microphones on here. So it only knows how to record in stereo. Remember, I just said that. That's all I could do is record in stereo. And I was recording the whole thing. And so if it's just some kind of weird thing that happened, then it's a coincidence. What about if I check my own audio? So what I did is I took the audio of my field recording, which is right here, and I
Visiting our planet at this time in the Earth's history.
now I'm listening to my audio.
This is a matter of great urgency.
It's very soft because I don't have big speakers in here to show you, but turns out there was a click in there in my audio. See this here? This is my recording. Down here is Chuck's recording. But if I make them both play solo and solo, they're so well synced. Listen.
This is a matter of great urgency.
So that's two different recordings playing, and you can't even tell that they're two different recordings, right? So, and then his little clip is right here.
Great urgency.
See that? You hear it? If I just go here and I click onto, now what I did is I locked onto that spot. See this like thing here? It's like a thing that locates that. And if I go, so it's solo on this track. This is Chuck's recording. Let me play that again. Hear how it's right there? Now if I mute his, and go up to here, and I play this one, it's not going to be very loud, but try to hear. If you can't hear it, I'll speed it up. I mean, I'll bring up the volume, but listen. Did anybody hear it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not his recording, it's my recording, playing the same thing. How is that possible? Because he's standing like over there. My thing is like here. They're not connected in any way. And I'm getting the same thing, not just like within the same region of time, like within a millisecond. How is that possible? So this is what I'm talking about with provenance and context. You know, to hear a little blip, you know, like, nah, it's nothing, it's just a little blip. But if it's in exact alignment with some other object that's in the room, and it's during this, and oh, by the way, a shiny saucer appeared at that very same time, that's a lot going on, right?
Close enough so that we can share our social security numbers.
This is interesting.
Okay.
My tri-field meter, it's moving like it keeps bouncing and then it stops, and then it bounces. I've got no electronics near this thing. I literally did it like 2 times.
Huh. It doesn't do that normally?
No, because if I put this, for example, this right next to it, it'll read it, and it'll go like in a straight line like that to read it. But I literally saw it go like this.
Like halfway up, back and forth.
It's just bouncing, right?
Hey y'all,
and then it stops.
back at a 45-degree angle, you got a triangle.
Where?
Back at south 45 from that laser direction, there's a triangle over there. There were 4 of them in a pattern. It's gone now, but there were 4 of them in a figure. Like, it could be a satellite paradigm, but I don't know.
Underneath that bright light?
No, it was up above it. He shined the laser where I saw the light come from. There was one satellite, and then there were 3 others in a triangle shape.
Like right through there?
Below there?
Yeah, down below it. Down. That's where it came from.
Right.
It went away really quick though, but there were 4 of them in a little triangle. Not a triangle, it was more like a quadrant, like a diamond or something. We had mentioned in the session that threes, lights, flashes, sets of 3s flashing. And over the last month after I left here, I've noticed lights that I lived in an apartment for years and never had issues with lights. And I had this lamp near my bed that would start flashing in like patterns. Every time I would lay my head down, the light would flash a few times. When I lifted my head up, it would stop. And then I would lay it down again and it would start flashing on and off a couple times. Lift my head up, it would stop. And that would go on several times until I told it to stop, and then it did. So, and then at church the other week, we had lights flashing off and like strange stuff. Like that church, I've been going there for about 6 years. Haven't seen any issues with the lights. So that's why I brought that up. But those are 2 things that have happened this last month, and I don't know, some fun stuff. And I came here out of curiosity. I haven't been disappointed yet.
In the end, the big question remains. On the nights of April 6th and May 4th, 2024, was contact made with some form of intelligent life from beyond our understanding?
I think we've been in contact from the very start. Yeah, I mean, I know I've been in contact for a long time, so we were already in contact. And you just helped bring it out even more, and who knows what all you've been able to help open up by all the great video and audio you've been. I think you're just part of the continuing development of this whole thing, you know.
So what is it that is appearing in our skies? Extraterrestrials? Interdimensional beings? Time travelers? Perhaps all of the above? Perhaps even more. Perhaps there may soon come a day when these topics are unfettered from the realm of science fiction and are looked upon with eyes that see the potential for reality. Of course, it's hard to just accept something as more than just a story without having an experience of your own to analyze. Even then, it might be hard to accept. History is unfolding before our very eyes with each passing day. The truth is that if you really want to know if someone else is out there, you just need to look up and begin your own journey of discovery.
Well, I see it as there's a term they call dharma. It's kind of like what you're called to do, kind of thing. You know, what can you do to help change the world, bring the vibration up in the world, which is really what we're all about, is to raising the vibration of the world. We want to get ourselves from a 0 civilization to a level 1 civilization and then on. Right now we're still pretty much a 0 civilization because we're all fighting and trying to kill each other and all sorts of stuff like that. and we all have things that we can do to help.
The impact on ourselves of contact with another intelligent civilization, how it might come about and what the effects might be, is now being discussed by serious thinkers the world over.
It is now okay to talk about life elsewhere or intelligent life elsewhere, whereas a decade or two ago it wasn't okay. It was considered too speculative to be worth the investment of time.
I think there's no question but that we live in an inhabited universe that has life all over it.
What I'm imagining is the facts that I've just stated becoming generally known, so that people know that out there is a million other civilizations. They all look fabulously ugly, and they're all a lot smarter than us.
Russ, look. The same kind of thing that's watched us since the beginning of the project.
Ooh.
age is dawning, an era of awakening. Each passing day witnesses more eyes opening to the reality of unidentified aerial phenomena. As reports flood in from across the globe, CE5 teams gather, their gazes fixed skyward, seeking contact. Yet, as the year draws to a close, the celestial canvas remains shrouded in mystery at present. The more we observe, the more questions arise. The whispers of extraterrestrial visitors grow louder, but concrete answers remain elusive. Humanity stands on the precipice of understanding, yet the universe holds its secrets close, leaving us to wonder what the new year and this new age will ultimately reveal. In late 2024, a surge of unidentified aerial phenomena began to be reported across the globe. This new wave of sightings was notable for several key characteristics that distinguished it from previous UAP events. One of the most striking aspects of the 2024 sightings was the apparent origin of these objects. Many reports indicated that the UAP emerged from the ocean, suggesting a possible underwater or undersea base of operations. This theory was further fueled by reports of similar UAP sightings by naval vessels in both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Another significant feature of the 2024 UAP wave was the object's apparent interest in nuclear facilities. Multiple sightings were reported over or near nuclear power plants and weapons storage sites. This raised concerns about potential espionage or surveillance activities by unknown actors. The behavior of the UAP themselves also contributed to the intrigue. Witnesses described objects exhibiting flight patterns and speeds far beyond the capabilities of known aircraft or drones. Some reports even mentioned the UAP causing electronic interference or disruptions, such as power outages or communication blackouts. The 2024 UAP wave sparked a renewed interest in the phenomenon among the public, media, and government officials. While some speculated about extraterrestrial origins, others suggested more mundane explanations such as advanced military technology or foreign surveillance drones. However, the lack of definitive answers and the continued reports of unusual activity kept the mystery alive. In our quest for understanding, we consulted an individual highly recommended by those experienced in CE5 protocols.
There's this whole adventure that we're going through, you could say, and it is to see what's going on and try and understand it as best we can, and what I think is good to look at is how that it's quite varied. We get quite a mixed bag of results doing what we've been doing. We have at times whatever we see or whatever's happening, it's pretty clear, it's just pretty straight ahead. Doesn't mean we understand everything about it, but it's fairly clear. And then we have situations where very interesting, but we don't really know what's going on. And then there's this drone stuff.
Well, there's the catch, my friend. Some of it I can talk about, and some of it I won't talk about. But and Dr. Gur's spoken about this. A number of people have spoken about this. Everybody has an opinion on it, right? I mean, there's probably 20 or 30 opinions out there flying around at any one time, right? Here's what I will tell you that I know. Having worked with Dr. Gur for those years, I am well aware and pretty well schooled in different advanced technologies that exist on this planet at this moment. Some of them are decades old, and so they're very far along in their development. especially when it comes to flying craft. Ships of all types, not just planes, not just drones, but actually saucers that fly around that may look like everybody in the world would think that it was an ET craft, and they're not. They're man-made. And so what is out there that is man-made and can be used for all manner of things? It can be used to surveil, right? These can be surveillance. It can be used as a tool for false flags. It can be used to frighten people. It can be used to, these can be used to gather information. So there's that we have going on there. And believe me, when you say the things coming out of the water, a long time ago, they had drones that can come out of submarines and can come out of the water, that are man-made and can do all kinds of things that you wouldn't believe. Anything that you can imagine, like Ben Ridge said, anything from Star Wars, we've already had. We've already done. Been there, done that. All of that technology that you see on all of those shows already exists somewhere here. It's, my feeling and a lot of others that the reason those are in all those movies is kind of to get you used to it, right? So there's that going on. There are also people who have their own little drones and want to be part of, who think it's going to be cool to put their drones up with everybody else's drones. And so you're going to have that, right? You're going to have some of that as well. And then there can be other. And that other, there could be other, and they could be used that could be surveillance as well. That's all I can say about that one. So a lot of it's going to be man-made. And people just think, oh no, we don't have that. Oh, we most certainly do have that. Most certainly do. Anyone who went to the Washington, D.C. press club event that Dr. Greer did a couple of years ago, there was a craft discussed there by one of the whistleblowers that had a skin that looked like fur. And he said, literally ran his hand, it would almost look like fur that stood up. It almost sounded like it was purring. He thought it was like a cat. Now, to people on this planet, that would absolutely, they would say, oh my God, that is absolutely an ET craft. And it is absolutely not an ET craft. It is absolutely not. There are all kinds of developments and technologies out there for the skins of craft. Anti-grav has been around for decades and decades and decades and decades on this earth. Defense contractors, military, that kind of thing. The humming or purring that he thought he heard. I mean, this is all part and parcel of man-made stuff. It's not at all surprising. Those skins on the craft are for all kinds of things. You can look it up. You'll find lots of stuff online about smart skins. That's what I would say about the drones. I would say to people, you know what? Observe it, see what happens, see what occurs over the next few months, next year or so. But don't go down all the rabbit holes that are online, because everybody in the world is pontificating about what this is or isn't. And I listen to them, and I actually have to turn them off. It's so disturbing to me to hear some of the leaps that are made here. People thinking it's all ET, or it's this ET, or it's that ET. And I'm thinking, yeah, you have no idea. And if you don't know, you shouldn't say. That way you don't confuse people. I think there's a lot of confusion. I think it frightens people. And one of the biggest ways to control people on this planet is to frighten them.
when you had the thing with the helicopter. It's very interesting, but what was that for sure? Don't really know. Have some ideas, some theories, but it also hooks in really nicely with what went on with Holly, because it's could be similar.
We had a pretty large yellow flash bulb, yellowish orange, that was directly over you. North, yeah, probably about what? About, I don't know, 56, 55 degrees.
Like you have a military helicopters, maybe it's a military helicopter and it's flying all around, and what's it doing there? Why did it show up when you're doing like a CE5? And why was it there for so long? I don't know. But Holly had a similar situation, except we have some more evidence. We have the video of the darting orbs there, and her testimony of how that jet came in and came down way low at her house. It's pretty interesting. We could look at that.
It was a first for me to be visited with the jet, just gosh, right at my treetops. And I have a really large tulip poplar tree, and it was right on top of it. It really, really rattled me. Yeah. The video clip was recorded April 27th, which was a Saturday night. And Saturday night, about dusk, I did play some crop circle tones, and I did some of the basic meditations, like guided meditations. But after that, I just kind of zoned out in my chair, had a little backyard fire going, and I was just relaxing. I had just gone in more into just meditation, and not guided meditation. And so my eyes were closed. I was completely gone. I mean, when I get into a flow state, I just slip away. And she, I think, had gotten off of work and probably home, I don't know, 9ish or so. And she reaches out to me about a little after 10. And she basically just asked if I had bought spotlights and if I was playing around with them. And I said, well, no, I haven't bought any spotlights. I'm just actually in meditation out here, not really doing anything. And she's like, are you not seeing all this activity over your house? And I'm like, well, no, my eyes have been closed. So at that point, it had ceased, and I wasn't, I didn't see anything that night. But she had, y'all seen those recordings with gosh, we have like a little golden looking orb that I call Zippy. I used to see something summer to that a lot here last summer, just zooming around, and, tree level sometimes way up in the, sky, usually coming out of the Butez constellation area, in and out of that area, popping in and out. And then behind the clouds, was really what caught my attention too, was just, you had 2 lights, sometimes 3 lights or so, kind of coordinating with each other and either crossing or kind of paralleling. I haven't seen that type of here or any of my CE5 events, like that. And so I was just kind of just watch the video. I was like, wow. And that was pretty much it for Saturday night. Now, Wednesday night, May 1st, is, I kind of set the intention. I started Crop Circle Tones broadcasting right at dusk, and just let those play for probably solid 30 minutes. And I did do maybe one of the pujas, went into a guided meditation. And right around 9 o'clock, I was in the chair, and I just opened my eyes and I looked back and I saw 2 golden orbs. I'm facing west. They were just overhead, but just a little bit east. And it's literally within seconds, I was looking at those orbs and I just hear this loud, I mean, I couldn't even tell you what it was. It was just so loud, rumbling coming in. And all I saw was metal overhead. And I couldn't even make out what I was seeing until this jet passed. And it was so low, I thought, oh gosh, it's crashing. And it's literally heading toward the direction where Felicia lives and my brother lives, and that part of the property. So, you know, I was completely panicked. Now, gosh, I wish I had my psionics just up and recording, and I had it right beside me. I did not think at all to pick it up. And then I noticed this jet kind of do a C-turn, come back toward my property, but it went across the street, it dropped even lower across the field. It's like a hayfield across the street. And it really went low. It kind of rocked a little bit back and forth like this. It didn't land. And then, you know, I felt a little bit of the orange afterglow, which John told me was afterburners, you know, and then took off east from what I could see. As soon as the jet was out of sight, I was still looking east with my, you know, my jaw basically on the ground. And two golden orbs popped back into view just over the hayfield. And they're lower than the typical commercial flight path. And they were probably in view for about 10 seconds and they slowly faded out. And I see the type of orb activity.
The orbs were not in flight path, you say? Of course. Well, they're orbs, you know, they can be anywhere, right?
Right, right.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's okay. And so, and of course, I was super just startled, rattled, excited. And I was calling Felicia. I was like, you know, and are you outside? Are you outside? Did y'all hear that? And she's like, she must, I don't know what she was doing. She didn't hear it, but my brother's in the background. He's like, yeah, did you hear a military jet or fighter jet fly over? I said, I didn't just hear it. I literally watched it and it was so close. I couldn't even make out what it was until it was passed overhead because it was that close. I couldn't get the outline of a, you know, a jet or a plane.
I just think that the video of the darting orbs, that's what I'm calling them right now, because they move pretty fast, is pretty spectacular. And I've frankly never seen anything quite like that in all the ET stuff I've looked at. Nothing zipping around so fast and almost going here and going there. And then sometimes it's in the clouds and it's diffusing in the clouds and then it comes out of the clouds. It's very interesting. I mean, if I was the military, watching radar around everywhere and I saw something like that, I could see them going, we have to dispatch a jet over there and see what's going on, because they do that kind of thing with Dr. Greer's stuff.
The UFO phenomenon extends beyond mere physical sightings, often intertwining with profound experiences of consciousness alteration. For some, contact with purported extraterrestrial intelligence isn't a distant observation, but a deeply personal, even transformative event. Within this context, the role of meditation and altered states of consciousness becomes a significant area of inquiry. Many contact experiencers report a period of heightened awareness or altered perception preceding, during, or following their encounters. These states often resemble those achieved through deep meditation practices. This suggests a possible link between expanded consciousness and receptivity to the UFO phenomenon. Perhaps a quieted mind, less cluttered with the noise of daily life, becomes more attuned to the subtle energies or frequencies that facilitate such experiences. Furthermore, some researchers propose that contact might not always be a purely external event, but rather an interaction occurring, at least in part, within the realm of consciousness itself. Meditation as a tool for exploring the inner landscape could then be seen as a means of preparing oneself for such encounters, or even facilitating them. By delving into the depths of their own minds, individuals may be opening a channel for communication beyond the limitation of ordinary perception. while the precise nature of these connections remains speculative. The recurring theme of altered consciousness and contact narratives that deserves serious attention. The exploration of meditation and similar practices within the context of UFO research offers a potential avenue for understanding not only the phenomenon itself, but also the untapped potential of human consciousness. It suggests that the search for extraterrestrial life may, in some ways, be intertwined with a journey into the uncharted territories of our own minds.
You know, some of this goes way back to when I was young, really pretty young. I kind of was on a spiritual path back then. And it was clear that this was not going to be just like an ordinary journey. And then in about maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I watched Unacknowledged. And so before that, I was doing meditation, a lot of meditation. I started meditating when I was about 12 or 13. So I'm a long time meditator. And I came about that not through any religion or groups. I was pretty ADD, so I spent some time in my room, as most kids with ADD will tell you that they do. And you know, I've had a book on meditation and yoga, and one on consciousness. Somehow I had a copy of the Tao Te Ching that I started reading by Lao Tzu, and I read that, and so that kind of put my foot on that path. And then about 7 years ago, when I watched Unacknowledged, I thought, wow, this guy is doing stuff with disclosure and making contact with other species, and I knew that this was true. I mean, there was not a question in my mind at all that you know that there is other life in the universe. There's tons of life in the universe, right? And I mean, it didn't make any sense to me even as a child that there would only be humans on Earth. Just didn't make any sense at all. So I watched that, and I remember thinking, you know, I think I've heard of this guy, but you know, I hadn't seen much on him. And I watched that movie, and the minute that movie was over, I went right to the computer and I sat down and I typed him an email, and I said, I don't know when the next one of your things is, but I'd like to attend. And they had one that was coming up, but it was already full. And she said, well, the next one, we'll send you a link as soon as we put it up. And it was actually in Texas, where I was living at the time. And so it was like 3 hours from where I was living. So it was very, you know, no coincidence here, right? And I went to that first CE5 with Dr. Greer. His wife was there. There were about 30 people at this one. And it was up at Enchanted Rock, which is out north of Fredericksburg, Texas. And I signed up for that, and then I thought to myself, oh my God, have I lost my mind? What? I'm gonna go to something with 30 people I've never met and sit out there under the stars and make contact with ETs? These people could be totally crazy. I mean, I was like, oh, what am I doing? And yet, you know, there was just something that drove me to do it. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to check all that at the door, and I'm just going to go with an open heart and think, you know, at the very least, I'll meet some very interesting people, and who knows, maybe I'll make some new friends. We'll see what happens. And I went to that first CE5, and holy smokes, from the very first night, I mean, things started happening, and I was like, okay, so you know what? This is real. This is real. And oh my God. I mean, I saw the very first night, we were all sitting up on top of a porch at this place. And there were, like I said, there was like 30 of us. And Dr. Greer's talking, and it's like, I don't know, 8 o'clock at night. And we're all sitting there, and all of a sudden I'm having heart palpitations, like, you know, like when your heart takes a couple extra beats. And I'm like, I've had that before. I mean, everybody's had a little bit of that, right? So, but all of a sudden it wouldn't stop, and it kept going. And I thought, oh man, here I am, 30 people. I'm having a heart attack or something. And the only saving grace is that Greer is an ER doctor, right? I mean, I'll at least survive this, right? If anything horrible happens. And he said, no, that's because I put my hand up. I said, look, I hate to do this, but I'm having this heart thing, and I've never had this before, and I'm not really sure what's happening. And he said, "Oh, that's the ETs." He said they kind of go around, and if it's somebody that they don't know and they've never met before, if you're new, um, they check you. They'll check you out, sort of like it's like using like a meter from Star Trek, checking your frequency. I'm like, seriously? Is yeah, and about 4 people right adjacent to me all put their hands up and said, I'm having exactly the same thing, only I didn't want to say anything. So here we all are having the same experience, right? And this is the first night. And all I can say is that was the beginning. I saw the largest craft I've ever seen in my life on that trip. I started really communicating with ETs, which I mean, really the whole thing astounded me. I was not expecting that at all. I was expecting to go and meditate and listen to Dr. Greer speak and learn from him and see what all this was about. And I had some of the most profound experiences. And I thought, wow, this is real. And okay, now I need to look at this seriously because it was no longer just a belief that we were not alone in the universe and that there are beings here and that you can communicate with them. It became an absolute knowing without a question of a doubt. Boom, done. And that I had already been studying consciousness for quite a while. I had already been studying meditation. But I will tell you, through these beings, I started really getting educated. We call them downloads, you can call them insights, you can call them listens, but whatever it is, you're being educated by them in a way that is it's very interesting. It's very clear when you're getting a message from them or a download, there's no question in your mind that you are getting it. Not for me anyway. I've had profound experiences. I've been on a craft. I've been different places, and I did this work with Dr. Griff for about 7 years. I left about last year. It just was time for he's really on the path of disclosure. That's really, and he's done 30 years of that. And due to him doing that, honestly, it has brought this world much further along, I think. Disclosure for sure. And he's dedicated 30 years of his life to this. So, but my path is really consciousness, educating people about consciousness, what it is, meditation and meditation techniques, teaching kind of about frequency and energy and what this universe is. And one of the messages that I got from the ETs in the very beginning was, whatever we give you, it's not for one person ever. It's for more than one person. It's for everyone. And so whatever you're given, you need to share. And I was perfectly fine with that. And that's what I've done the whole way through. Yeah. How is consciousness a part of all this? This is actually all a part of consciousness. It's the other way around. Consciousness is everything. This entire universe is consciousness. It is energy. It is frequency. It is frequency. It is density. It is vibration. That's what it is. The entire universe is consciousness. And so that's how important that is. CE5 and our contact, our ability to try to contact them, or want to try to contact them, begins through consciousness. It is through consciousness and through working to establish, to understand your own consciousness and to raise your consciousness. Basically, what you're trying to do is raise your frequency. The higher your frequency is, the easier it is for you to contact these beings and for them to communicate with you. Everything is consciousness. This is how we communicate with them. People think that they're going to land somewhere and they're going to get out of the ship like in, the day the earth stood still, and they're going to be talking English. That's not how it works. They are telepathic. You will hear them in your language, but they're not going to land and be speaking German or French or Japanese or Chinese or Russian. I mean, if you're in Russia and they land there and you're having a conversation with an ET, you're going to understand what he's saying and the concepts through your own language, your own interpretive abilities of your consciousness. But they are telepathic. It's how we communicate with them and how they communicate with us, which is why having a regular meditative practice and developing that is so critical to contact work. When you meditate, meditation, by the way, is not the goal. It's a tool. People think that they'll learn to meditate and then that's it. Then they've done it. No, meditation is a tool. It is not the goal. It is a tool so that you can learn through meditation to still your mind, to hear, to focus. Human beings, most of them are very poor at focus. And I can tell you, put my hand up for that one. And it requires practice. And that's what meditation is. It's a way to entrain your mind to be quiet, to learn to be quiet, to learn to be focused. Some meditations are goal oriented. I do a lot of meditations that are forgiveness meditations or gratitude meditations or love meditations. And some are quiet where I'm just receiving rather than sending. When you're sending, you're not receiving. And so it's important to do both. And when you're sitting quietly, this is when you can begin to really get some true insights from them and from some messages from them. Meditation and, to me, contemplation to me is very similar to meditation and nearly as important, because in contemplation you're kind of thinking about something, and during your thought process you are on a neural pathway thinking about something. And for these beings, it is very easy when you're in that state to give you insights. And all of a sudden, you're sitting there thinking about something and contemplating it. And all of a sudden, you have this amazing new insight of something you'd never known before. And people say, well, I thought about that. I said, really? Did you know it 10 minutes before? Because if you didn't know it 10 minutes before, I can guarantee it didn't come from you. Yeah. It's usually an insight from these beings. And this is one of the ways that they are very helpful. But you need to be able to be quiet during those times, right? Even if you're contemplating. You know, Socrates, Aristotle, these philosophers knew something about this. I thought to myself, no wonder they did so much contemplation. Yeah. So, yeah, meditation is the tool. And I think it's critical that people begin a meditative practice. They don't have to do it for long. They can start with 5 minutes and work up. Do it once a day, but it's less important how they do it. You know, people get all kind of into the whole different, oh, you have to sit this way, you have to hold your hands this way, and you have to have your eyes this way, and you've got to be so and so. And really, none of that is really true. In order to do meditation, find a comfortable position. Close your eyes, take a few deep breaths. There are many different breathing techniques. There are many different techniques to meditation. I tell people, try them all. Try all of them. Find which one works for you and then do it. It's less important how you do this, but it's more important that you do it.
Under the velvety expanse of the night sky, the CE5 group convened once more on November 6th, 2024, their hearts set on establishing contact with our cosmic neighbors. Mark Hagerling, a familiar presence, guided the evening's endeavors. The session commenced with a sequence of resonant tones, their origins traced to the heart of a crop circle, setting an ethereal ambiance.
You got it.
Even if they didn't do anything, it just sounds really cool. Y'all know the history of where they came from? So it was recorded in a crop circle in England during the CE5 thing with Dr. Greer. Somebody recorded that, and this is actually playing as a redone, cleaned up version.
Okay, so the crop circle tones, there are a number of crop circle tones. There are the CE5. There's the crop circle tones from Colin Andrews. That story, Colin Andrews went into inside a crop circle that had just formed, and he had some recording equipment. He could feel the energy in there, and he recorded that crop circle tone. He recorded that inside the crop circle, and those sounds are just amazing. And we play those sounds. There are a number of tones that we play. Crop circle one is one. We play the Fibonacci frequency, and there's another one that Dr. Greer plays, which is the CE5 tones. But the crop circle tones came from Colin Andrews being inside a crop circle and recording in there. There are, with real crop circles, the ones that are made by ETs. And are there others that people make? Yeah. To me, it's very easy to tell the difference. I mean, truly, it's easy. But there is an energy in those crop circles that, from what people say, is really undeniable. But this is where those came from.
The original version, I think the original is actually in the app.
Yeah, the audio's terrible unless they cleaned it up.
Yeah, so somebody did a pretty good job of recreating it. Pretty sure the ETs understand what's going on.
The sonic prelude paved the way for the sacred puja ceremony, a ritual of reverence and connection.
So I thought I'd play a recording of the puja first. We haven't done that a whole lot. Guess you all know. Are you familiar with the puja?
No.
Okay, so Dr. Greer likes to do it at all of his events. It's a very old ceremony, he believes, and it's in Sanskrit, so it's very old. It's so old that he believes it was actually started off planet.
Now, puja. The puja this causes people a lot of angst. First of all, they think that the puja is a religious ceremony. It is not. It is a spiritual ceremony. It is a ceremony that is used by different religions, but it is gratitude. It's a ceremony of gratitude. It's done in Sanskrit. It's spoken in Sanskrit. That language, supposedly, and this is from Dr. Greer and from people that he's spoken to in the work that he's done and others have done, that this was a language that really came from off planet. The puja that we do is called the Guru Puja. And that puja is sort of it's a gratitude to all the different gurus and ascended masters. Okay. And when it's done, we also dedicate this to past ascended masters, current ascended masters, and even future ascended masters. It was originally, that Guru Puja was originally spoken and written by Maharishi. This was a man that Dr. Greer studied with. He studied transcendental meditation when he was probably, I think he was 18 or 19, something like that. And he became a meditation teacher. He learned Sanskrit, and I think he tutored Sanskrit. So that is what the puja is. It's recited in Sanskrit. During the puja, there are different offerings. There's fruit and a candle, there's incense, there's rice, there's water, there's sandalwood. There are a lot of flowers, a lot of different things. And it takes about, I'm going going to say it takes between 17 and 20 minutes to do. There are many people who do the puja every day, at least once, in different countries. But we usually do it during the CE5. We try to do it somewhere in the first half of the CE5 because it sets the tone. And I will tell you that every time we do the puja, stuff happens. I've seen some of the most amazing things happen during the puja, after the puja, right before the puja. I've seen things on the puja table, under the puja table, going towards the puja table. I'm telling you, it's really quite amazing. So it's pretty powerful. And the frequency of that puja is very powerful.
Apavitra Pavitrova Sarva Vastangatobhiva Yasmare Pundarikaksha
started on its own.
Sabaya Biantara Sushi
When that went off.
Avahanam Narayanam Padma Bhavam Vashishtam.
So what it is it's from the Vedic tradition. So the Vedas are it's the oldest collection of writing on the planet. Originally an oral tradition in Vedic Sanskrit. And what this particular puja is a word which means ritual, and in this case it's honoring the lineage of the teachers of Advaita Vedanta on back to what you might just call source.
Cool. And now Dr. Greer always has this picture on the table, puja table, and it has a whole bunch of different ascended masters on it from different traditions and stuff too. And the ETs apparently are very aware of it, know of it, and all of them I don't know, but certainly some of them, and respect it. That's my understanding from what I've been taught from Dr. Greer. And so we'll just play a recording of Dr. Greer doing the puja, and you can just meditate during that. It's quite short. This is a recording from a CE5 event of him doing it. And don't forget my little dried flower on the table. It's from the puja table when I was in Arizona with Dr. Greer at the event. So brought it here from those years ago when I was there.
As twilight deepened, a small, round object, fleetingly visible on the thermal camera, zipped across the screen. Soon after, the EMF detector shrieked, its alarm piercing the stillness.
Anybody get to do a pre-meditation?
Did.
Inviting them to come this week?
I did. I haven't seen the spot yet other than that.
Oh, yeah.
But I did today. You know, I
just tell
invited.
Them somewhere around here. I hear an
Okay, so my EMF was just going off.
Is it? Got all your equipment away from it? You gotta make sure your phone's not close to it or anything.
My ears were popping when I came down here, which usually means I'm about to experience something.
When your ears popping?
Yeah, they talk about pressured influences the environment. Ears were popping for no reason. They don't do that.
Okay.
Except when I had that encounter last time, they started popping.
Throughout the remainder of the session, the enigmatic object, visible only on the thermal camera, reappeared multiple times.
If you're in the college where you, in the college where you,
a fleeting presence darting across the night sky. Its swift, erratic movements were punctuated by sharp turns, defying easy explanation. On one occasion, it seemed to vanish into thin air, leaving observers to ponder its sudden disappearance. To those who might dismiss the sighting as merely a bird, we offer a comparative glimpse, footage of a bat, also filmed that very night. The differences are striking, in size, in shape, and most notably, in speed. Yet, when this new footage is compared to the anomalous recordings from April 6, 2024, a compelling resemblance begins to emerge.
Here's what's the coolest thing that I feel pretty sure about. On the very first, let me go back to it here. On the very first occurrence of the flyby, I'll call them,
Okay.
for a better term. If I say that, you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
There's on my audio, there's another click, you know.
They used to use big spotlights in the 90s. And then use these.
And I wasn't sure because there was also getting, let me see, let me play it right here real quickly. 90s. Use these. Yeah, you know, right on the first one, there's a pop. I mean, this is reminiscent of the sound of the shiny saucer, where as soon as that thing pops out into the sky, there's a pop.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm not sure about all this stuff, but I am sure that there's that pop right there. It looks funny on the video because it's like it pops out of the cloud or something, and over there, pop right there, you know. There's no click or pop with any of the others. It's just that first one.
What can I tell you about the different types of beings? Well, I can tell you that they are very diverse. There are beings that are different sizes, different colors. Some are humanoid, some are not humanoid, some are insectoid, some look like other animals. There are species out there that look like nearly everything you can find on this planet. I have met and conversed with a number of them. There are some that have been on this planet. This is always amazes me, really, Chuck, when people say, geez, I don't know if I believe that they're ETs. I said, you don't believe that they're ETs? Okay. There have been 8 ETs on this planet for probably over 18,000 years. Those some species. They're here. They've been here. They continue to be here. They are known. They are known of by certain military groups. And so it's stunning to me how secret this has been. This has been kept under wraps for so long, which is such a shame, really. It's made this whole thing of disclosure so much more difficult. It's difficult for them and it's difficult for us. I've seen when I was in Joshua Tree, wow. I've seen them in the side on this around the circle. There have been a couple that have just been in sort of a very beige colored humanoid look, walking around. When I was in Joshua Tree one year, there was one evening where 5 beings came into my room at about 4 a.m. And when I saw them outside the glass door, I knew immediately that these were beings. And I said, you're welcome to be in the room in any form that you're comfortable with. And they choose what is the safest way for us to view them. It may not be the form that they take in their natural form. These 5 beings were, spheres. Each one was in a sphere that was maybe, 7 or 8 inches in diameter. Looked like a metal, glowing, silvery blue sphere. I've spoken with different ones. I've been on ships. Literally, there was one trip. I know all this is going to sound crazy to a lot of people who don't know anything about this, and they're going to say, oh, yeah, she's totally crazy. But I'm telling you, this is just as real as it gets, people. Being out there at a structure, that time I was not allowed to see their faces. I was just allowed to hear the conversations that were going on in that meeting. And at one point I said, I don't understand why I've been brought here and why I'm being allowed to hear this. And they said, well, because you need to take this information back and give it to Dr. Greer. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. That's fine. So, yeah, there are many people on this planet who have had interaction with beings. There have been military people who have interaction with beings. Clifford Stone. Do you know who Clifford Stone is? Sergeant Clifford Stone. He died a few years ago here. He was part of a team that was a crash retrieval team. And he was trained in offering emergency medical services to any beings that were still alive. You can get his book. The name of it is called Eyes Only. And he, from a young person, had an ET that he was in contact with. And so the powers that be knew this. And it was one of the reasons why he was picked in the military to be on a crash retrieval team. At that time, they had medical training for, I think, 6 or 7 different species that they knew were here quite often. And they had medical kits for each one of those types of beings, so that if there were any alive, that they could offer assistance. And he talks about that in his book, what some of them look like. Yeah, so I hope that helps to answer me. Really, there are some that look like cats. There are some that look like humanoids. There are some that look like insectoid beings. But the one thing that I try to remind people is, look, if you understand that every single person on the face of this earth is at their core a divine being, inside there, if you take off all the personality and what people look like or what color they are, how tall they are, or where they live or what language they speak, underneath there you have a divine being, a divine light being. And people do not take that next step to understand that every one of these ETs that you meet or we talk about, or that are out there on their planet or on their ship or in their galaxy or in their solar system, they are exactly the same. Take off that they're a different color, that they look different, that they may look totally different than us. They may have different eyes. They may have a different nose. They may not even have a nose. I mean, they may have different ears, mouths. But if you take all that off, you have a divine being there. And if we could ever get people to bridge this gap where they don't see everyone else as the other, then you remove the division and the separation of people. And then now you have something you can work with. Now you can come to an understanding with others. Now you can begin friendships and communication. And to me, that's one of the big things for CE5. I think it's one of the reasons we do this, to make contact, to establish relationships and friendships, to understand them, and allow them also to understand us, because there are many species that come here that are not quite, they don't quite understand humans very well. They don't understand our emotions. We tend to be very emotional. That can be very threatening for them. We move quickly, and people get startled and they get afraid. So yeah, but we have more in common with all these different species than we have differences, and this I know for sure.
Where like some beings are physical, some aren't, and there's a variety of everything. Some don't even appear. They're like an abstract thought, you know what I mean? So it's like you're dealing and encountering anything and everything. It's an infinite universe, so it's like
a quintessential shade of the color blue.
So Dr. Greer spends a good bit of time in his lectures explaining that, the cosmology kind of, for saying that we need to understand that well for when we do CE5, or else don't be confused. So who's first time at a CE5 event? You are, you first time?
No,
Oh yeah, you were at, of course. It's your first time?
At the CE5, yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're not, it's like you're new to the idea or anything. You just haven't been at it.
Oh yeah, I haven't been to an event, right.
An event, yeah. So we talk about, in these intro things, about the different things that can go on in these events. And one thing is for sure, that it's greatly varied.
Okay, well, I would probably have to divide that into two different groups. One would be a group of people who are actively trying to make contact and are doing that on purpose, who are doing the protocols, who are meditating, who are reaching out, who are doing a CTS, which is a coherent thought sequencing, where you're saying, here's where I am, here's our solar system. It's on the Orion arm of the Milky Way galaxy. Here's our star. We're on the third planet from the star. I'm in the northern hemisphere. This is what it looks like. This is where I live. That would be one group of people who are actively seeking contact. For those people, when they show up, I would say, if you're actively seeking contact, you should do some imaging work first. And imagine, really wrap your head around the fact that they may show up and you've reached out through consciousness and said, I would like to meet you. This is like you going next door to your neighbor's house and knocking on the door and saying, hey, I just thought I'd come over and introduce myself. Okay, well, imagine that you're doing that. And so if they show up, don't completely freak out and go screaming down the street, because this is counterproductive. First of all, they're going to be, believe me, they're going to be running the other way, really. That's how it works. And they don't want to frighten anyone. They don't want to startle people. And then there's the other group where it just spontaneously happens, where they're not out there doing protocols and they're not really trying to make contact, and spontaneously contact happens. Why does that happen? Well, I have some thoughts on it. I'm sure everybody has a few thoughts on it. Some people tend to come to these lives with a little bit more of a consciousness edge, you could call it, right? They come in with a little bit more of a higher consciousness. Or these may be people who are actively, through spirituality, working on their frequency, raising it, and raising it, thoughts of love and compassion and gratitude and friendship and kindness and all the things that we could put under the heading of divine energies. So those people who are working on that have a higher frequency anyway. And they tend to have maybe a little bit more ability to be contacted into contact spontaneously. It's like, you know what it's like? It's like having a radio beacon attached to you and people can see it, right? And so they may see it and say, hey, what is that? Let's go check that out. Or you may be part of the plan. You may have come here as part of the plan of whatever's going on right now. That happens too, right? Now, absent all of that, and there's just this spontaneous thing, it would be very difficult for the average human being to not, at the very least, be startled, right? Because that's our first thing. We become startled, then becomes fear, and then becomes paralyzed, like, oh my God, what is this? I would say to people, try not to do that, but it's almost impossible for most people not to do that when it's something that they might see it as something threatening. Usually I try to, when I meet people and we're talking about this subject, I'm like, you know what, try to develop a little bit of discernment. And what is discernment? It's sort of like developing a yardstick. And part of what's on that yardstick is stuff that you already know and you're already comfortable with, and you can already feel like when you meet someone and they're smiling, and you kind of get a feeling like, you know what, that seems like a pretty good person, or I get a good feeling from that person, or a good vibration. Back in the '60s was like all good vibes and stuff. It's that, right? It's kind of developing an ability to feel into energy. And that is what a lot of discernment is about. Everybody listening to this would know that they've met some people and there are red flags. I mean, you know it, you feel it right away. Like, oh, that's a red flag. Okay, well, you might want to say that might not be something you walk towards, right? And that is part of discernment. And so I personally have spent years developing discernment. I think it's very important. You don't have to be expert at it. You don't have to contort yourself in any kind of way. You don't even have to really take courses on this. You just need to, for a moment, quiet your mind when you're in a situation, if you can, and just look at it for a moment. What do you feel? Do you feel a threat? Do you feel affection? Do you feel friendship? Do you feel something peaceful? These are the kinds of things to begin. People should be doing this anyway, I think. I think they should be doing it in every situation that they're in on this planet, very especially, right? When you meet someone new, it would always be a good idea to kind of feel into that situation, see what you get. And that's how you practice this. And so if somebody has any discernment in a situation that is spontaneous, comes from out of nowhere, if they have the presence of mind to stop for a moment and feel the energy, that's the beginning of discernment in that situation. And if you're meditating, that begins to develop pretty quickly. So that's what I would tell you. I mean, in fear, it's very, very difficult. We had a woman who came to our CE5 in Dallas Fort Worth, and we, before we did the CE5, the week before, people were asked to meditate, do some, sorry, I have a dog walking around here. Come on, go sit down. To have, sit and meditate and do CTS and kind of reach out and say, this is where we're going to be on Saturday night between these hours. And so there was one woman who was doing that. I have to watch my time here, but there was one woman who was doing that like Thursday night or something, and she's meditating, and she goes to sleep and she gets up at like 3 a.m. and to go to the bathroom. She comes out and there are 3 ETs standing in her hallway. And they said, we saw your energy earlier tonight, and we thought we'd come see what this is about. And she said, oh, no, You have the wrong night. It's not tonight, it's next Saturday. I was like, and that's what you said? I was like, oh, wow. It was really very funny. She said she was really startled, and they said, we're sorry, we didn't mean to startle you. We just thought we would, they guess they could see her energy signature. And they thought they'd come check it out. And they said, we're sorry to startle you. We didn't mean to startle you. And she said, no, I'm not afraid. She said, I just was startled. And yeah, I was doing that to let you know that we're going to do that on Saturday, and not here, somewhere else. And I said to her, and then what? So then she got extremely tired. She said she got so tired she couldn't keep her eyes open. And typically that happens often in contact experiences. You can be very tired and go to sleep. The time that they were in my room in Joshua Tree, I'm sitting there on the edge of the bed looking at these 5 beings, and I'm like, holy cow, like, wow. And I was, of course, honored to have them in there. And then the next thing you know, I'm so tired I can't keep my eyes open. I literally could not stay awake. And the next thing you know, I'm waking up. It's the next morning. I'm in my bed. I have no idea how I got there. I'm actually in my bed. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, did I fall asleep? How could I possibly have done something like that? With 5 beings in my room, what an opportunity. And what, I didn't get to ask them anything? I didn't get to ask them anything, talk it out? Oh my God. And then I stood up and I took a couple of steps, and I realized that my knee was fixed. I'd had a bad knee since I was 15. I was like, oh my God, now I get it. And of course, I went out, and Dr. Greer, we were all sharing a house with Dr. Greer, and I said, oh my God, you can't believe what happened. I said, I fell asleep, and said, and then I get up and my knee's fixed. He says, well, you didn't fall asleep, Pat. They anesthetized you so they could fix your knee. I'm like, and thank you, God. And so, yeah, what she experienced is fairly common sometimes. That's a technology. And actually, it's a technology now that we also have. That technology exists on this planet. I know people are going to look at me and say, oh, yeah, no, I can tell you that it is. It's but on this planet, it's weaponized. It's kind of called neural weaponry, neural consciousness weaponry. But
I just think we're in a spot where it looks like something's going to happen, kinetic in a good way.
Now there's no going back. People say, well, I said, look, let me just tell you something about this path and this journey. First of all, the path is very straight and narrow. And it's easy to get bumped off of it by going down rabbit holes that you're going to find online everywhere. So I always caution people, be careful about the rabbit holes. There's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of disinformation out there, a lot of it. I find few people who really understand this and have taken the time to be exact about it. But I also tell people, look, once this door is open, there's just no closing it. It just doesn't work that way. Once the door is open and you're awake, then it begins. The most important thing on the planet, on the face of this planet, the most important thing that anybody on this planet can do, because people say, well, how can I help? I'll tell you how you can help. You don't have to do anything huge. You don't have to do anything massive. You don't have to become some big guru of something. What you need to do is work on yourself. What you need to do is understand consciousness, meditate, raise your frequency, raise your consciousness. That is what you're here for anyway. And if you do that, you help every single person on this planet. You help the entire planet. You help everybody, including yourself. So that is what I would say. Do not forget that. And it is the simplest. None of this, the most profound things in life are always the simplest. And they're that way for a reason, so that we can actually do this, right? Meditate, raise your frequency, become a more loving person, monitor your thoughts, Monitor your words that come out of your mouth. Every word has a frequency. Every thought has a frequency. If you're thinking good thoughts and loving thoughts and kind thoughts, they go out everywhere across this entire planet, and they go out past the planet into the solar system, into the universe. They keep on going. They're still out there going somewhere. Same thing with negative thoughts. So monitor your thoughts. Do positive thoughts. If you find you're doing a negative thought, stop and think a positive thought. Begin to understand consciousness and raise your frequency. Monitor your thoughts. You know what? That old Beatles song, all you need is love, love is all you need. It is the single most important frequency on this planet. And it is the one that everybody overlooks. It's the one everybody overlooks. It is the single most important one. That's what I would say. It's very simple. Start today. If you do it, it'll help everybody.
As we've explored the compelling evidence surrounding CE5, a profound truth emerges. Consciousness may well be the key not only to understanding the UFO phenomenon, but also to unlocking the vast potential within ourselves. The experiences shared, the data collected, all points towards a connection between our inner world and the mysteries that lie beyond. The journey of CE5 is more than just a search for extraterrestrial contact. It's a journey of self-discovery, a quest to raise our individual vibrations and contribute to the collective consciousness of humanity. As we stand on the threshold of a new age, a dawn in human history unlike any we've known, let us continue to explore, to connect, and to expand our awareness. For in doing so, we not only reach for the stars, but also delve into the very depths of what it means to be human, ready to embrace the unknown with open minds and open hearts.
From shadows deep he wanders lost, through whispers of a time long gone, secrets buried beneath the frost. His heart beats while led by the dawn. Scrolls of old with ink still dry, mystic symbols guide his way. Stars align beneath the sky. Night turns into broken day. Ancient ones awaken now. Speak your answers loud and clear. Heroes' lives won't break a bow, facing all he's learned to fear. Through caves of dark he seeks the light. Eyes of stone won't turn away. And echoes call in the silent night. He draws his sword and starts to pray. Dust and bones of ages past, graveyards of forgotten dreams. Bound in fate his die is cast, reality split at the seams. Ancient ones awaken now. Speak your answers loud and clear. Heroes' rise won't break a bow, facing all in the silent night. He draws his sword and starts to pray. Dust and bones of ages past, graveyards of forgotten dreams. Bound in fate, his die is cast. Reality split at the seams. Ancient ones awaken now. Speak your answers loud and clear. Heroes rise, won't break about. Facing all he's learned to fear. Nothing fear. Learn to fear. Learn to fear. Learn to fear.
Oh.